Well, welcome back to Hey, it's Luskos. This is Levi
Welcome
Lusko.
back. This is Jennie Lusko, and we are happy to be here with you today.
We are here to say greetings.
And we're here to stay.
And hello. We greet you in the name of the Lord this beautiful November week where we have had snow. I woke up Sunday morning with about 1.5 inches of snow on top of my car. And I said, so this is how this fall day is going to go.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see it. Do I have something on my shoulder?
I thought you did, but you don't.
Thank you for always being willing to serve me and giving me so many false alarms. Like that's a marriage thing. Like you see your spouse looking at you and you're like, oh, is my zipper open? Is there something in my teeth? And sometimes it's a false alarm. Like, oh, I'm here to be concerned. But it is nice to have somebody keeping their eye on you.
True. To get that random hair grown out of your ear.
Oh, wow.
To
We are going to the real and the
that's in
raw.
your teeth.
The hair
It's just
growing out of your
helpful.
ear.
Although you're not so much that for me. I'm that more for you.
I think you're a little more aware of your environment than I am in that regard. So it's harder for me to be as aware of those things. But luckily, God gave us a ton of tiny human beings, of which 3 of them do share in your affinity for orangutan activities. The picking and eating of the bugs.
No,
I'm saying that's a part of the social life of primates, and you have taken to it swimmingly. For me,
oh my gosh,
it's not as much something that comes natural or is even within the pale of appropriate behavior to just without invitation just begin to.
Funny.
Like if I saw something on your teeth or in your shoulder, I would say, "Oh, hey, sweetie, you got something."
But you wouldn't go get it.
No,
you would just say.
You just delve right in and help yourself.
No, but with your teeth, like I'll be like, "Oh, you got something in your teeth." But if you have something like, I'll just grab it. Then I'm not bothering you, making you have to do it.
But you make me a little bit skittish. Like, what's happening? There's movement. I just see movement in my peripheral vision.
I'll be more smooth.
Just do it slowly.
I'll be
like
a smooth
sloth.
sailor.
Sneak up on me. She'll never see it coming, and then be like a ninja. So yeah, it's we're coming up on Thanksgiving week. That's next week. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Tell me about how much you love cooking a turkey. Tell the people. Tell them.
Do you really want me to?
I want you to tell the people what you. Oh. Whoa! Big loud stomach noise.
I'm really hungry.
Did your mic catch it?
So, I first of all don't love to eat turkey. Oh, maybe that's why you couldn't hear.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh. But the process of cooking a turkey is really horrible. I mean, I guess it would be more horrible if I had to shoot the turkey and
pluck its feathers.
Pluck the feathers and
cut the gobble.
Well, that is included when you buy a turkey.
It's got the gobble?
Well, it has some gobbly, like gizzard, or maybe that's...
Gizzard's different. Gizzard's an entrail.
An
intestine.
I never really had anyone teach me how to do it.
Intestine.
I just learned on YouTube, so I didn't have like a grandmother say, "Oh, this is what you do, and this is how you..."
Back in my day, honey.
But I just kind of learned, and
gizzard.
It was just like, I guess I have to do this because this is what we do for Thanksgiving.
How many times have you thrown up in your mouth while cooking a turkey over the years of our marriage?
Well, not actually, but in my heart.
In your heart, you threw up in your mouth. That takes talent, people. Imagine the turkey.
It's just a horrible experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
But you don't even like it. And that's your biggest
no one in our
beef.
family, Lennox is allergic to it.
Ooh.
No one else eats it. I think you're the only one who eats it.
Yeah, I like white meat. I don't like dark meat. I like the turkey white meat with gravy on it because the drawback of the turkey white meat is it tends to be also a little dry. Get a little cotton mouth eating the turkey. So you got to really give it some gravy love. That could be the name of a restaurant. Gravy love. There's a biscuit love in Nashville.
Oh, that
Maybe there should be a gravy love.
A biscuit with honey and butter would be really yummy
There's a new restaurant in the Salt Lake City airport. It's a Belgian-themed restaurant that has all manner of variations of waffles, including one that's got gravy on it. Chocolate
is that the
waffles.
Chicken and waffle one?
It has chicken and waffles. Did you see it with me?
Yeah, I was there with you.
You really just went on a trip with me.
Yes.
I thought it was you.
That was
we
me.
We saw it together.
Well, 2 weeks ago you went with Lennox. This past
That's right.
3 days ago we were on a trip together.
That's
and that
right.
was when we saw it.
We saw all the biscuits and it was waffles and gravy. we are so hungry. I don't know if you can tell, but this conversation is bringing up our appetites.
My tummy is hearing you.
Yeah. And I hear your tummy. Well, thank you for listening this week. We have a tremendous episode in front of us. We have the pleasure of hosting for the first time, but right at the end, you'll find out when Judah makes me promise to get a tattoo with him next time. There is a next time coming.
Yeah.
So they did commit to coming back. We had a tremendous conversation with Judah and Chelsea Smith, our friends who lead a great church called Churchome. Where is this great church? Well, it's everywhere. Because as we discussed in the show, long before the pandemic, they decided to bet big on mobile. Their church app, Churchome, led the way in having a church foyer, but in the app, and they, a long time before the world went to Zoom, were kind of going that route, and we talk about some of that. They also have locations throughout the Seattle land and the greater Seattle area. Sorry if you don't speak Washingtonese. I don't know if they call it Seattle land. That's what they say about Chicago. Chicagoland. Oh, yeah. So if you're from Chicago, it's Chicagoland. Let's Google, is Seattle land? What cities do that? What other cities just declare themselves a land? I know that, I can only think of that one. The greater Seattle area. Do they call it the Seattle land?
Doesn't look like it.
It doesn't seem like it. It's a Puget Sound area. They would usually. I feel like I've heard Puget Sound all around the Puget Sound.
Puget?
It's Puget.
Oh.
It's not Puget. That's where they found Free Willy. No, I'm just kidding. That's where the movie Free Willy is set, I think. Well, notwithstanding, they also have a church in Los Angeles, in the greater Los Angeles area. Do you know what they call people who live in Los Angeles? Los Angelinos.
Oh.
Yeah, it's true. And they're also the host of the brand new podcast, In Good Faith. Judah and Chelsea are beautiful, vibrant, kind people who we are grateful to know as friends, and we cover a lot in this conversation.
Yeah. And just to give you a heads up, you may want to watch this on YouTube.
Or access more
video. Because we do talk a lot about what is happening in their where they are.
Yeah, and at the end, Judah flashes a lot of thigh when he makes me vow to get a tattoo. So we do hope you enjoy this episode of Hey, It's the Luskos and this wonderful conversation. And we will see you back on Thanksgiving Day. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
We are showing up.
While you're up at 4 a.m. on Good Friday, Black Friday, I always make that mistake. I always call Black Friday good and Good Friday black. While you're up at 4 a.m. on Black Friday, waiting in the Walmart parking lot for a Vizio television.
Television.
I wonder what the big hot Black Friday thing, because I feel like so many websites are already rolling out Black Friday deals.
There's already Black Friday happening.
I saw, where was it? I like that Black Friday now is like a spirit of an age that begins.
It's like the Christmas season. There's the Black Friday season.
It's a very generous Black Friday.
Maybe they're realizing that too many people were getting injured on Black Friday because they were like clamoring and crowding and hurting each other, and now it's more like, hey, in the convenience of your own home.
Now that Halloween's done,
you too can be a part of Black Friday.
Have you ever in your life gotten up and gone to a Black Friday sale?
No, I've been tempted to, because I've had friends who have done it over the years, and it seems like just a fun thing to do together. But then when that morning comes, it's like, no, thank you.
It's like the devil is a liar. I'm not getting up.
Like I'll pay $100 more to not stand in line.
Yeah, right. And then the people that get up at midnight and go like Thanksgiving evening.
Well, yeah, it's like you're hanging out with your family, and then people are gone, and you're like, where did they go? Oh, they went to go wait in line to get the...
On the positive side of things, if you are in a Black Friday queue next Friday, we will have an episode for your enjoyment. So we hope that you will, and it's going to be a great episode. So have a great Thanksgiving week. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Judah and Chelsea Smith. Dang it. Don't cut that. Leave my mistakes in. Gotta let the people know this is real. Awesome. Well, thank you, Judah and Chelsea, for coming on Hey, It's the Luskos. These are the most beautiful people we've ever had on, Jennie, don't you think?
so beautiful.
You
We
are
love
a
you
liar.
guys.
No,
And we love your lies. You lie, but your lies are good.
I only
No,
lie
no
to those I
lies.
love. Oh my gosh. So we mentioned before, you guys are coming to us from your bedroom, which is really quite an honor to just come in right in
Wow.
there. I think no couple is more suited to have a bedroom themed podcast than the Marriage Monday Smiths themselves right here. You guys
True.
come in
That's her,
strong.
by the way.
And you did mention, because those who are listening can't see, but you have in neon over your headboard, you have your names. And you were saying you sleep under Chelsea's name and she sleeps under yours?
Yep, it says Chelsea and Judah, and I am. If you're facing the bed, I sleep on the left side. She sleeps on the right side, and so we respectfully sleep under each other's names.
But what does that say about us that we have our own names in neon lights? Like, do we have something missing on the inside that
Yeah.
needs to be fulfilled, or
Something
But do you
fragmented.
keep them on? Do you keep them on all night? Or do you like have a
You know,
switch?
they're rarely
that-
on, but we turned them on for this podcast. They're rarely on because if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do white neon. It's bright white.
Very
and
bright.
It's actually like devastating in terms of mood lighting. It's horrific.
Yeah, it's just flat. Yeah, white light.
Oh, it's just the worst. I would have done hot pink if I had to do it over again.
That's sultry.
Yeah.
Is that your handwriting? Did you guys each other do your handwriting?
No. Well, I chose Chelsea, the handwriting on Chelsea, and then we just mimicked it because it was for her 40th birthday.
and then I got him his for his 40th.
Aw.
And then we got the hands together.
So for a while it just said Chelsea, and then when his birthday came around, you added the second half installment.
That's what we did.
He was in a closet until Judah's birthday came around.
Oh, and was for Leprechaun's Day, for St. Patrick's Day. There.
You know what I love how much you guys are laughing at each other's jokes.
I can and will talk for the entire episode about nothing but these lights because I have more questions. Have you guys always had your corners of the bed, or is it a thing that has evolved over
Corners?
time? Like
Oh my
sides.
gosh.
Sides.
This is the worst decision. In our very first townhouse that we lived in, Judah very valiantly chose the side of the bed by the door. You know, man, he's going to protect us if anybody walks in. Well, since then, we have lived in probably 10 houses, and in every house since then, I have ended up by the door.
Right.
Which means that when kids, you know, we did all the toddler season, all the baby season, always by the
Yeah.
door. So that means I have always been the first line of defense. And the worst part is we can't change. We're 22 years in, too far ingrained. And I am by the door once again in about.
That is so
Well, but
funny.
you're also not afraid of anything, and I'm much more afraid. So it's actually the perfect fit. I see a lot of sovereignty in all of this, Levi. I know, we're not going to get into the Reformed theology here, but I see a lot of sovereignty in how this has worked out.
But yeah, like warning to new couples, choose your beds, your bedside very carefully. Have you guys stayed on your same sides of the bed?
Oh,
or have
very
you-
much, very much. And
Like even when we were first
but
married.
we're in the opposite. So I'm on the right and she's on the left, and it has nothing to do with burglars. I don't even remember how it first happened.
Well, our first apartment, the door was like the door was like equidistant to both of us, and I don't think that ever crossed our mind, like safety precautions.
But it's actually probably more tactical, Judah, because you'll be able to see what's happening and really be able to swoop in.
assess the
See?
situation.
No,
Levi, I
we
love
grew
you.
up getting broken into. I mean, for me, at least once a year. I don't know how much.
Oh,
I thought it was
Ours was
normal.
every summer.
You guys
yeah.
had bars over the windows in your first house. I've heard this come up in your teaching, right?
Yeah, we did. Chelsea and their family actually had money. They did not live in the same neighborhood and did not have bars.
But we still got broken into.
That's true.
Every year.
Oh my! Every year.
Shout out to Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
You'd have to feel exceedingly vulnerable after that. Like knowing someone's like we'd never had our house broken into, but our church did. And we caught, like our cameras caught footage of these guys. Like it was like they were from Central Casting, like kicking doors in like excessively hard, and like, but just felt so like violating to know that people have been combing through your stuff.
Totally. One year we came home from a summer vacation, and it was apparent that the robbers had been scouting out the home for quite some time, and they had lived there. They had slept in the beds, they had eaten the food, the whole thing. Yeah, it was wild.
Oh my god.
Okay, so for me, it was the opposite effect. My mom we're just getting into it here. My mom got really pretty brutally attacked when I was in 8th grade. And it just did something in me because we stayed in our home. She stayed who she was. It didn't deeply affect her. And so for whatever reason, for me, that made me less scared of just, whatever, what's going to happen is going to happen. And really just did the opposite for me. So
Yeah.
I'm the one who goes and
Interesting.
fights off burglars.
Now, did you guys have a
Wow.
king size? That's a king. Is that a king or a California king?
Yeah, it's not a California king. Thanks for asking, Levi. But I would prefer that. But that's something we'll have to just look into in the future.
How arrogant of California to think that,
Wow.
there's which bed sizes, you have twin, you have full, which also is a double, you have queen, you have king. So like all of a sudden we're from England now all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden just California king. It's just sizing is very bizarre.
What is the
And-
etymology of California king? How did that become the saying for the biggest
great
bed
question.
out
And
there?
it's slightly
Seriously.
shorter but a little bit wider from what I understand.
I think so. And then I think there's I think we should call it a Shaquille O'Neal king. I've heard his bed is like 2 California kings.
Just
Yeah.
put
So
together.
that's the word on the street. Yeah, I think we should, the new name should be the Shaquille O'Neal king.
I agree.
Okay, we're gonna look into this
Let
off
it be
camera
said.
for sure. Now,
Let
did you
it be
guys have a
said.
king right away when you got married? Because we got married and had a queen, and so she always said, "I don't want a king, I want to snuggle."
Yeah, no,
no.
man.
We've
We've always
always had a
done the king, man. I don't know how to tell you this,
I-
but that's just the facts.
Yeah.
I would snuggle all day.
You put
with a
that all
single-
on me. Like I was the
You
one.
did. You didn't want a TV in our bedroom. That was like your hill to die on for a long time.
And now,
Don't you love watching Ted Lasso in bed? And then secondly, you never wanted a king size bed because you said you wanted snuggle. But then we slept on one in a hotel, and you're like,
I thought
"That's
we
much
could only
better."
afford a queen.
Well, it was that too. It was a lot of factors.
Yeah, the truth comes out.
There were factors.
You know the worst part? Our sons are now like 6'3", almost 6'4", and
Oh
like
my
6'1",
gosh.
and they're still in their childhood twin beds. Like their feet come off. It's been on my to-do list to get them.
No. As so
For
they
a long
should
time.
be. As so they should be. When they go to college, there's probably going to be a twin bed in their dorms.
Twin
They
XL.
They should have to be grateful and purchase their own queen bed one day.
This is my favorite podcast.
Yeah,
I'm loving this. I couldn't agree more.
I really
Levi.
like the advice that you give out with the Luskos.
When I had my first apartment, I had to buy my own mattress. I think I bought it from Goodwill,
And you
which is a
slept
terrible
on the-
place to buy a mattress. I didn't have a box spring or anything else. I just had a
just had it on the
twin
floor.
mattress on the floor.
A
I
tween?
was twin. Too cheap to run the heater, so I slept in my sleeping bag under the covers, because I didn't want to run the heater because I was like, it occurred to me oh, I have to pay for all this. And there's something turns on in you where it's like you're like real miserly with the heat, and just I don't know, all those things.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Calvary Chapel Bible College in California, and then a little bit in England. But
Let me see if I can guess your mascot. Were you the Crusaders?
Judah, we didn't even have a sports
Lions.
anything. There was no mascot.
Eagles. Like
Probably the
Calvin
Eagles.
Christian
Eagles?
mascot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like bad Christian coffee shops, Hebrews, and all the rest. Overflowing cup.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just
Like
offended
new wine,
some people.
the new wine.
The new one. Well, not in the more tightened up. That's not a Baptist college. They're not talking about that.
A couple from our church started Five Stones Coffee, and I was like, you know what? That's a good one.
Very
like
cool.
that.
I like
That's a
it.
good
I like
one.
it a lot.
Always a sparrow. The sparrow's involved for some reason.
Yes.
His
yes.
eye is on the sparrow's eye. That's what
Yeah,
it shall be
that's
called.
it. That's it, man. The Lily Cafe.
Well, you two, Jennie and I have enormous respect for you guys for a lot of
Yes.
reasons. A lot of things. We've watched your lives from a distance. We first met you in person. I mean, I've been tracking we had been following how God was using you guys back to youth ministry days, but first bumped into you in the lobby of a hotel in Sydney, Australia. I remember, never forget first time. And just from that moment forward, you guys have been such life-giving, not only great friends, but also just an example. We're watching you guys as you lead in your church, in your home. And Chelsea, you have really just been reliably, consistently such a vulnerable, honest, funny voice communicating on marriage. So I'm advocating
Yes.
for a Marriage Mondays book. So
Yes.
just between me and any publishers listening,
Yes.
that needs to
Amen. I believe it.
happen someday.
I wanted to write a book. Instead, she's getting her master's degree. It's like, just write a book. And it's kind of like a master's degree, but
That's
I don't know
incredible.
why I've been chicken about it. I mean, you guys have done books, but I watched Judah go through the ringer of books, and he's not a stressed out person, and he got more stressful probably in all, not in writing the book, but in all the PR and everything surrounding it. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't know if I want to put myself through that. It's very selfish of me.
That's how I felt, honestly.
How did you guys do that, survive it, get through. I mean, obviously you've done it multiple times, so it didn't kill you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think when you have a fire in your belly for something, you know God's hands on it, so it can kind of give you a higher threshold for suffering. So I think when the time's right and you know you need to, because you don't want to write a book because you should or because someone wants you to, but because you really feel that message. And I think a lot of people don't. You know, I think, Judah, it's cool that you've taken a sabbatical from it, or you're not using that language, but you had a number of really well-performing books. I think when you keep doing it because the publisher's calling like time for the next one, I think that's when you compromise quality in what God's doing, because you're supposed to just do it. You always want to be at a place where you know God has called you to, right?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to write a book actually for the exact same reason, because I had seen Levi write 3. I was like, I just don't want to add that to my life. Like I feel my life is so full. I feel like I don't even handle my life well. And I don't actually want to write a book, and I probably shouldn't. I didn't go to college. And then all of a sudden it was one of those things that it was just very obvious that it was like, oh, okay, God's kind of moving me in this direction. And it would be like disobedient to not. And I kind of fought the whole way, like ask Levi, like I was kind of like, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. Who am I to write about this, speak about this? Like there's so many other people who could do this, blah, 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 all those things. And then it just kind of happened. And Levi was more of a PR person for me. Like I'm still very unaware of like numbers and all that kind of stuff, but it happened, and that's awesome. And I honestly look back and I don't know how it happened, but God was just doing it. But I believe that there is a Marriage Monday book someday, or at some point something, because it's made an impact on my life.
Well, what you have to say is unique.
Yeah.
You know, your voice I always look forward to seeing those posts pop up. You know, if anyone is not aware, every Monday, Chelsea Smith at some point posts on Instagram a Marriage Monday. How did it start? And how did you know, like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this for the long haul?
It started, probably 5 years ago, or maybe even longer. Some of our closest friends who we married were at their wedding, saw them fall in love, get married, had this beautiful relationship, and then just ended up with some hurdles in their marriage that they couldn't overcome and decided to get divorced. And watching them walk through that and the pain that caused them, their extended families, our friendship, our children, it's actually probably the closest divorce I've seen up close and personal, which is, I realize, a blessing in the world we live in. That's pretty rare to have been in my late 30s at that point to have gone that long to see a divorce up close and personal. But I just got so mad, and I realized, the reason the Bible says God hates divorce isn't because he hates divorced people. It's because he actually loves every single human being. And he doesn't want us to experience that wrenching and that heartbreak and that tearing apart. I mean, the Bible says really the two do become one. And it was just wrenching and heartbreaking. And so at that point, I was so mad at the devil. And this is like such a cheesy Christian girl answer. And thought, what can I do to get back at him? And it was at the start of the year.
That's so good.
That's awesome.
And it was at the start of the year, and I thought, I know, I'll write Marriage Monday for the whole year and just do 52 things on what we can do for marriage. And I started, and I was not planning to keep going, but I realized, no, I think I still have something to say every Monday. So it'll keep going as long as I have something to say. But I don't know if you guys have been married for so many years too. You realize I need help every week, all the time. It's the most fulfilling, hardest thing I've ever done.
Totally.
And you share tips and tricks and practical stuff, and the photos always make me laugh. I did want to ask, because you guys just had an anniversary, and the photo in bed you guys posted, I was like trying to imagine the behind-the-scenes story, because your eyes are closed and you look so lovely, but I know someone's arm was contorted in a painful way, and I'm curious how many photos was not the first photo. I'm sure it was like 11 or 12 at least, right?
That was photo number 2.
Yeah, check it out. The photo reel. I think we took 3.
There's 3 total.
That's impressive. Which shows you that you guys have a knack for it.
Well, 22 years.
Well, I don't know about that, or we just are ridiculously bizarre and should have never posted that photo. I will say the funniest part of that photo was one of my best friend, Jason Kennedy, who literally posted on Chelsea's Instagram, "Where's my photo cred?" That made me laugh.
That was a great comment.
Was so
Did that get
great.
pinned to the top? Because if it didn't, it needs to be pinned right to the top of the.
Where's my photo cred?
Yeah, because I said that. I feel like I'm right there in bed with him. I did say that when I showed it to Jennie. I was like, man, this just makes you feel like you're right there in that moment with him.
A little too much. It's super, super weird. So
Sorry about that. Yeah.
I
No,
Chelsea.
don't. Well, and the cool thing is too, Chelsea, you'll have all of this material to pull in, whether it's a devotional or something. It's all none of it's wasted, and it's all there, and people will be able to pull it. It would look beautiful in a book someday. So hang on to it. It's a dream out there. But talk to us about the master's journey, going back to school and.
Oh man, I'm a year and a half in. I'm taking one class at a time. I'm attending Fuller Theological Seminary, which I like because it's for the people who are not politically conservative, but who are religiously conservative think it's too liberal, and people who are religiously liberal think it's too conservative. So in my mind, it's right in the middle of the road, which is
You're taking
That's
shots from both
awesome.
sides.
That's awesome.
Yep, taken, but also really balanced in the middle. I don't want to just hear everything from one perspective or everything from another perspective. So we started the process a few years ago of adjusting, changing, depending on who you're talking to, the model of how we do church. And it was so important for me that everything that we do is biblically based. And I just realized I have a little bit of time now. All my kids are in school. And so I can dive in and really study and make sure that we have a good, solid foundation. So it's been fun. Poor Judah, I talk his ear off about the most boring, mundane things. I'm in a church history class right now. It's so amazing, but I love
That's
it.
incredible. That's so
Wow.
inspiring. I love that.
What is your favorite aspect or period of church history that you're going through?
Ooh, so right now I'm just in modern church history, so from the Reformation up until now. And I think what's been so interesting is the reaction of the church to rationalism. And, Galileo comes and starts studying the stars, and philosophical questions and debates start happening. And up until that point, all knowledge had come from the church, and then all of a sudden knowledge started coming from science and from study and from exploring. And the way that the Protestants reacted and the way that the Catholics reacted to that, I feel like there's so much that we can learn from now. So that's really interesting, as well as the Industrial Revolution and the incredible changes that were happening in the world, and then the changes that happen in the church because of that, and also similar to now in the digital revolution or the fourth industrial revolution that people say we're a part of. It just feels like God's doing something, and seeing what he's done before just gives me so much peace and courage and comfort in this crazy world that we're living in, that God's still doing something. He did something, throughout history. It's just been very comforting.
Yeah, very. For both of us. I mean, I'm getting my master's degree as well,
Wow.
through her. So why get one for yourself when your wife can get one for the both of you?
It'll go on the wall. We did it. We made it. Here we are.
Yes.
Oh, that will be. I'll probably be getting a gown and a cap for myself.
It'll say Chelsea Smith, but you'll write your name like
Like on the
And Judah right there on the bottom
and
of it.
Judah.
when you guys had a baby, did Levi ever say, "Yeah, we just had a baby"?
Yes. Yes.
Ah,
You're like,
only when I was prepared to get a black eye. That was
Oh.
a few months. When we had all five of them, yes.
Wow.
No, we learned the first one. Man, that's fascinating. I mean, that's worthy of at least coming back around. The Wall Street Journal article that came out Friday had a startling, or when people are listening to this, it's a week ago, because people are listening to this, it's November 18th. It's Owen Wilson's 53rd birthday.
Wow.
Favorite Owen Wilson film? Anybody?
Cars.
It has to be. Is it The Interns? Is that the name of it?
Uh,
The Internship.
oh, with Vince Vaughn.
Oh, that's Vince Vaughn.
No,
See,
it's Vince Vaughn and Owen
Owen Wilson's got the broken nose.
yes, I love Owen Wilson. I God bless him.
He's pretty good in Night at the Museum. He's also in Meet the
yes.
Fockers. Meet the
My
Parents.
goodness.
That's pretty good in there.
I don't remember movie titles very much. It's a very weird thing for me. And
Yeah.
I just remember all the movies Denzel Washington's been in. That's it.
Absolutely.
But do you remember like quotes and things that are in movies? Like, are those like on the top of your head? Like,
It's the same
me
thing.
neither. But
No,
Levi
man.
comes.
I see the
Yeah.
world through movie quotes for sure.
I know that about you, Levi. I really do. And I feel inadequate sometimes as your counterpart and friend.
No, that's well, that should never be felt.
No, like we were talking about a movie recently, and it was like a well-known one that I should know a quote from it, and you were like spouting off all these. Oh, it was when you were talking to my brother and Amy, and you guys were like spouting off all these quotes, and I literally had nothing. I had nothing to give to that conversation because that just doesn't like stick in my mind.
What about the favorite Denzel Washington movie then? That's worthy.
Glory.
What's that?
Glory.
Oh, Glory. Man, I was gonna say Training Day. It's a little salty, but dang.
Yeah, Training Day is
Remember the
amazing.
Titans.
Glory impacted me at a young age and never left me, and is still. And there's a lot of the history there that's not accurate and all that, and we're learning that and growing in my education and information understanding. But nonetheless, that movie had a profound impact on my life. So thank you, Pastor Denzel Washington.
Honestly,
Yeah,
have you listened to
seriously.
that commencement speech he gave? It's on YouTube. There's a link floating around where he talked about put your slippers deep under your bed every night. So the first thing you have to do in the morning when you're getting them is you have to get on your knees. And
Oh my gosh.
No, I didn't hear that.
You
Yeah.
need to.
Stupid
I thought
good.
I did.
Speaking of other good Denzel quotes, he also was asked once why he never goes on talk shows, never gets, you don't see him on the late night show or whatever. And he said, if people see me for free Monday through Thursday, why are they going to pay to see me on Friday night? And I thought,
Man, this guy.
Denzel,
And how do you know that?
I don't remember.
Right? That's a great point.
It's a good quote, though, just to think about like the frenetic busyness of celebrity when what he really has to contribute is, to use the illustration of marketing a book, it's the writing of the book that's the best marketing. It's not, you can tweet and, post and buy ads, but if the book ain't good, so you're doing your ultimate marketing work when you're writing it, if it's going to be dope, because the movie will market itself.
So,
Boom.
who
Well
is
said.
this guy?
So
Levi?
I was going to ask Chelsea though. So, and both of you, with the Wall Street Journal thing says 1940, church attendance in America was like what 75%, and now it's continuing to go down and has only accelerated from then to now through the pandemic. But the caveat is what constitutes belonging to a church, and in a lot of ways, you two are the perfect people to have this conversation with, because like nobody honestly on earth, you guys didn't see it coming, but this, as you were listening to the Holy Spirit, it was almost, when you look at the last 10 years for you guys' ministry trajectory, you can really see very clearly that you guys saw the writing on the wall far before any coronavirus would show up, as far as where people are at with their consumption. You guys bet big on the app, with the church home, that whole shift, so I'd be curious to just kind of hear your perceptions. A lot of people are like, the sky is falling and, all this, what do you see when it comes to where we're at in church history? Because that arc continues. It's not just back then, it's right now.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so fascinating about that stat, and I didn't read the exact Wall Street Journal article, you did, I'm going to look it up, is that the amount of Christians worldwide, not in America, but is increasing exponentially. And so here we're having more people meet Jesus, but they're not connecting to church the way that church has been. And so
Right.
that has been a huge catalyst for us.
Yeah, the global south, right? That's
Yeah. And I think within 10 years, the global south is going to have significantly more Christians than the Western world, which is a huge shift in Christianity too.
Oh, yeah.
right. So when it comes to someone engaging in church, what does that mean? Because people will talk disparagingly, like, well, they're not coming to church, they're watching online. And it's like, well, we all have had people who come to church but don't give, don't serve, aren't responsive to authority, all of the normal benchmarks that we would say constitute being in a church community. So as you guys have really led the charge in America in opening up, hey, you can belong to church home but live in Tulsa or live in Albany, and this technology piece is going to be what binds us to, or facilitates the binding of us together. How have some of the messier chapters of that informed maybe the conclusions you're coming to as you look towards the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, that's such an important question, and of course, leave it to the Luskos to ask the most meaningful, probing question. I feel a little bit disqualified. I feel a little bit overwhelmed at the concept of approaching that at this point. I feel like I know less than I've ever known before about God and about His plan to be the superhero of the world and what that all means. I do find it interesting that Chelsea studies have uncovered, the Wesley brothers critiquing George Whitefield because Whitefield was making, decisions for Jesus outdoors in open fields. And they were like, that's impossible. You can't.
No, here's the direct quote from John Wesley.
Yeah.
He said, unless I would have seen it with my own eyes and experienced it, I would have believed it was a sin for somebody to get converted not in a church.
Wow.
We wouldn't even fathom thinking that.
We think that's
right.
hilarious now.
Think about
what would he think of hearing sermon clips on TikTok?
right?
And it's and I guess that's the comedy in a lot of this right now. I find a lot of comedy in what the church thinks is very serious. I actually don't think is as serious as we thought it was. We've all grown up in church long enough to know these mottos of whole impetus in our churches for seasons were invite people to church, when in reality, quite literally, we actually are the church. We are living stones by definition. And so some of the constructs that we have built have been wonderful. And God is never changing his message, but he's always changing his model. And I think sometimes we see the technological age as some sort of confrontation to the truths and principles and doctrines we hold true, that somehow technology is going to be the undoing. And actually, I think technology is a setup. Technology is like money. It's neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it. It's not money that's a sin. It's the love of it.
Yeah.
And so technology is used for gross, horrific human acts, human to human, towards one another. And yet, nonetheless, technology can be used as an enormous vehicle. And I just don't think we're at 2021 and God's in heaven wringing his hands going, if it wasn't for technology, the church would be healthy and everyone would vote Republican. I don't see it like that. We don't participate in some of what I think is momentary, nearsighted, culturally institutionalized nationalism and some of these things that are fine for what they are, but this is not my home. It's never been my home. My home is a place called forever, and I'm a forever being, and so are you guys. And so I want to use my short, brief stay here, which is a vapor and dust, the scripture says, to its maximum effectiveness in reaching as many people as possible to tell them that they're actually loved by God, whether they're aware of it or not. And so some of these constructs of we've got to fill buildings and we've got to have a lot of classes and we've got to do I think they're wonderful and God has used them beautifully, but I will not die on the hill of church programming. That is not the hill I'm going to die on. I'll be completely honest with you. You guys know this, Luskos. I'm a part of the system where wherever I am live, the building is pretty much full. When I'm not there live, it's not full. And I think we've got to consider why that is. What's going on in our programs? What's going on in our ministries? We're starting churches with 2,000 Christians. I think we've got to reconsider. Is that a good thing? Where are we headed? Because the way you start, my dad used to say, is the way you're going to kind of maintain it. And so I think we need to preach sermons that people in our churches question. I think we need to challenge each other in a way that we don't feel comfortable and don't necessarily like it. I think we've got to review what it means to love our neighbor. I was so busy in church services and programs and meetings that I didn't even know my neighbors' names because I was so busy changing the world and preaching sermon series and writing books. So I'm not the first to say this. I'm probably way late to the game. There's been a lot smarter men and women before us who have questioned, hey, is this the best, most efficient, effective approach? And I love the church. I'm a part of the church. We love church home. We love what you guys are building and doing. And so somehow, sometimes I think people think I'm want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I do want to throw all the bathwater out. I think the bathwater is stale. I think it's murky, it's colluded, and the baby to me is Jesus.
Well, it's really important to do every once in a while. Even hot tub water, it just gets really gross. It only can do shock so many times. That's really good. Well, thank you for your passion. Thank you for that perspective. That is, you guys are disruptive in a positive way. Yeah. And I think, you're not disruptive for disruptive's sake. You're not anarchists, you guys, no. You guys are the product of the local church. You guys, your marriage, everything, you guys are, but you're also wanting to ride to the wave of the Holy Spirit that's coming, not the one that was there, and that's where I see you guys at. And anybody who's going to do that, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be times we swing and miss, but I'd rather, and I think we'd all rather, swing and miss than never swing and waiting for that perfect, pitch to come. And so I think none of us get to have a say in the time we're born in. No one consulted us and said, would you like to be born as millennials? I think it is what it is. Here we are. We get handed the deck of cards we're handed. And just like those who, came to New York, Ellis Island in the potato famine from Ireland, and those who showed up during the Great Depression, like we're given the times, and we have to, like the men of Issachar of old, know what to do with it. And that takes trial and error. That takes listening to the Spirit. That takes, some intuitive, and that takes sometimes going big, like you guys did when you had an app developed and everybody was like, what the heck? And even the name Church Home, you guys changing the name, new season, new thing, new strategy. And you looked pretty dang smart when, the whole world went online. And, so I think, again, you guys are trying to do that. That's what I see and hear.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry to sneeze during those incredible comments over here. I'm like, no, not now. Levi's just nailing it. That meant so much to us. What were you going to say?
Yeah, but it means a lot to hear you say that we're being disruptive, not for disruption's sake. I think sometimes we've questioned our own sanity. And it means a lot. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of Sanballats and Tobiases out there who aren't building anything, but sure have a lot of opinions about whether our walls can hold the weight of a fox or not. And I think what an asinine argument. Your wall can't hold a fox. Well, it's like, are there a lot of foxes around here? Like what? And then you spend all your time. Actually, foxes only weigh 3 pounds, and my wall. And you're like, wait a minute. I'm not having this conversation with you. I want to talk to other builders. I want to talk to other dreamers, and it's very easy to opine as a backseat quarterback and, Monday morning or Tuesday morning expert on how the game should have gone, as opposed to like the Roosevelt said, the man in the arena has his face marked by dust and sweat and blood. And you guys have gotten dirty in humanity and tried to show love and done such a great job of that over the years. So, I guess one question is to quote your friend, what about the children? So I think that's where for my headspace is at. Adults, church online, engagement, obviously is one thing, but how, because I think you were shaped a certain way, and now the next generation coming up, if it's a church online experience, what does that same development look like, and where's your energy focused on reaching out to 7-year-olds?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it's such an emotional one, because I know for me, I encountered Jesus at camp every summer, and youth group every Wednesday night was such a special time for me. And memorizing scripture in Sunday school, in our church kids classes, that is how I encountered Jesus. And it's one thing to change a model for these people over here, over there, but it is a whole nother thing to change a model when it's come to my kids, my teenagers. When they don't go to youth group every Wednesday night, and they haven't had summer camp for the last 2 summers physically when they've been with a lot of people. And it has taken so much faith to continue to step out and follow Jesus. And so Jill will probably give you a practical answer, but first of all, I'll say, yes, that is a question. But it has been helpful to realize that our current model really has only been since the late 1800s that we've even had Sunday school model and kids model. And before that time, really the expectation was that the parents were the pastors of the home. The parents were the priests of the home. And I do have a passion to get back to that mentality. I grew up with a Christian school, not saying you should do it or shouldn't do it, but I feel like when we were youth pastors, there were so many parents who put their kids in Christian school and expected them to be good because they were in a Christian school. Like, okay, the school will take care of that, and so we can go do our own lives. And I do wonder if one of the things that God is up to is continuing to put more and more onus on parents to pastor their children, and not just their teenagers, but their little children. So one of the things that we do is have a church kids video every week that goes for about 7 to 10 minutes, and then a family discussion time afterwards. And so to watch a video and then to have that conversation as a family or with a group of families instead of, okay, kids are in church over here, parents are in church over here, we're going to get back together and then go on our merry way. And I know we always had intentions to talk about the message afterwards, but we didn't always. Probably other families are better than us at that. But realizing that God is doing something new and a new way to reach a new generation that maybe we don't see all the details, that we don't have all together. but trusting that God has these children in his hand more than we ever
Wow,
could.
that's a beautiful answer. That's really huge. We've talked about this a lot, but never thought about that. Like, how are we empowering parents to pastor their family and to lead their family and lead their kids? That's really beautiful.
So, asking for a friend, what have you guys learned about pastoring your own 3 children? Obviously that's great to think about that for our churches, but it's like, what about our own selves? Because it's still the real messy of, kids with technology and phones and the internet and life, and what are you guys currently learning on that?
I think Levi, that's probably a big part of our journey. First of all, the most effective thing we do through the app, churchome app, is actually our kids programming. We have the most engagement there. We have the most traction there. It's animated with teaching, preaching, and so in terms of results, and I know it's so funny how obsessed we are with fruit and how little we focus on root. But anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. But so if you want to just go by the fruit of it, I think there's a lot of indication that there's going to be huge traction. But I think in a real sobering way, both Chelsea and I are like, we have to face what we're talking about here, and that is, do we want to pastor our children? Are we pastoring our children? Are we teaching them a worldview that goes through the person of Jesus? Are we teaching them that this life is about mission more than career? Are we teaching the difference between career and mission? Do they understand that work was before sin, that work is an honor and a privilege? It's not just work so you can get money, and money is the object of working. No, working is the point. Like, to do something with your hands, your body, your brain, your soul that God gave you to add value to your fellow man and into this ball called earth. And so that's a tall task, though. I must admit, preaching, I've been doing since I was 9 years old. I've been doing it on a regular basis since I was 16. I'm 43. Like, preaching is not hard for me. Preaching, and yet a lot of my life within the constructs of the community of faith called church became the orator, the communicator, and the teacher. And then, like many of us, I just wanted to insert my children into the programs that Chelsea and I, in some cases, authored and kind of shaped. And as opposed to family devotions, family discussion, dedicated dinners and meals with just our family, talking about what they're going through as 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, talking about the nitty, the gritty, the dirty, the hard, the painful, the challenging, talking about things that mom and dad don't know, not answering questions that God hasn't answered. But that's intimidating. And it's so funny because Levi, Jennie, you know this, like, put us on a stage at a big conference and it's like, that's kind of no problem. But all of a sudden I got to look at my 17, 15, and 13-year-old, or my 12-year-old came running in the other day and all of her friends at school were smoking weed. And she's like, Dad, and she's, terrified and scared, not so much of the marijuana as much as it's illegal. Right? It's a legal activity. Right. And it just is easier to not have that. It's just easier to not have a family dinner where the kids are allowed to bring up everything. You don't need to get into what everything is, but they go to a public school in Los Angeles. So it's I just want to say to all the parents out there who wish that preachers like me would just institute more programs to send their kids to, like, that's how I feel too. Yeah. I just am not convinced that is the best approach. And I'll say one last thing, and maybe this is too much, and that is, if it was going to work, it would have worked by now. Everybody is bemoaning on either sides of issues and challenges, like, this is why the country's like this, or this is why the church is like this, or this is why, and everyone kind of has their reasons. But I just want to say that I think the church can be infinitely more effective. I think we can be far more loving, caring, considerate. I think there's a desperate, broken, hurting, dying world out there that wants to know that they're loved by God. Yeah. And that's the message we have to give to the world. And I wonder sometimes if we've gotten so programmed, it's really hard and sometimes intimidating to just sit down with people and have kind of how should I say, an old conversation like antiquity. Back in the day, tabling, meals, sharing, loving, weeping, crying, holding, hugging, and it's really scary. I gotta say it's scary. Chelsea and I are like, where's the youth pastors? And we
Yeah.
still have them, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, here, take our kids,
Fix
and,
them, please.
and we've had to face a little bit of our own family and kids and challenges, and it's definitely not as comfortable. This I know, but I think it's spiritually developing our family and Chelsea and I in a way that we're so dependent on Jesus. And I dream that maybe this is a little bit of God's plan for the future of the church, maybe.
Beautiful.
I think also, I mean, as you're discipling and you have your home community and church, what I love in our church and with our family is that we have young people who our kids look up to and see, oh, that's how you follow Jesus at 17, or that's how you follow Jesus at 20. And what I love about that is just the how we're doing it together. And I think that that's what you guys are all about, is we're in this together. We're loving God together. We're helping. I mean, we're helping raise kids. Our daughter just had her first babysitting job of a family in our church, and it's just like you just see the generational flourishing and sweetness and discipleship, and so where it's not there is the not pressure, but there is the responsibility that we have as parents to be pastoring our kids. But then as we're in community, we're also helping helping our kids, but as we pour into other people, to pour into our kids. And it's just that kind of messy, beautiful thing. And I don't know, I think that's the beauty of the church too.
And having the thick enough skin to where when your kids look up to someone who's telling them the same thing you've tried to tell them their whole life, and they come to you with it as though it's some sort of novel revelation, biting the tongue and saying that's amazing, and not being insecure and angry that they don't look up to you, but embracing that and cheerleading and championing that and getting your kids around people that are doing it right, and knowing that's how God's going to work through their lives.
I believe that. And I mean, I just want to be clear too. I think Chelsea and I are passionate about, we're still doing lots of programming, and it's kind of a both and. I just think one really shouldn't replace the other.
Totally.
There's those deep relationships, and then there's wonderful events and conferences and retreats and advances, but I'm not so sure that they can ever replace the table. And I think of single moms and single mothers who are listening to this podcast, and single dads and grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. Let me just be clear. You are our hero. You are the most amazing people in the world. And I just believe that those individuals are graced and gifted and called by God to really pastor their babies.
Yeah.
And God will give them the strength and stamina and energy to do it, even when they feel like there's no chance they can do it.
Yes. Yeah. Lois and
that's
Eunice
so
with
good.
Timothy, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Well said.
I was talking to the woman who was my youth pastor, who's now a pastor in Denver. I was preaching there for her a couple weeks ago, and we're having a conversation because she was raised as a missionary's kid on the mission field in Uganda, and her parents were there for years. In her formative years, that's where she was, and it was so incredible, her perspective of growing up really without church programming. It was her and her parents and her brother, and they were there on mission. And what did something inside of, she's one of my heroes, was that sense of being on mission, that it wasn't just about sitting and receiving something to help me grow, to help me get something, to help me. But in her formative years, she knew she was on mission. And I think that's something that Jesus wants for all of us, for all of us to know that wherever we go, on our workplace, in our schools, that we're on mission. And it's easy for us to do that right now with our kids and in their school and in their lives, because they aren't surrounded by some of the programming that I grew up with. And it's been cool to see them really embrace it. And they're teenagers. They have their struggles like all teenagers do. Yeah. But they really know they're on mission. And I think more than anything, I'm proud of them for that.
Very fun.
That's huge. That's so huge.
Well, that's amazing. And important, and a really good conversation. It's a time for the church to be ambidextrous. It's left hand and right hand, like the mighty men of David that can swing a stone with both hands. It's not one or the other. And everyone wants us to pick that team, but it's really being able to have dance. You have two lungs, you have two kidneys, is what it is. So you guys have recently entered the space of podcasting, and we have both listened to you guys' first episode. Or is there more now, or is it just the one right now?
I think there's actually the fourth one just dropped
Fourth
today.
came out today.
Where have I been, and what rock have I been hiding under? My gosh. Well, I know how I'll be spending my next airplane flight. But you guys have a tremendous...
In good faith.
Yes, In Good Faith. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's something that like yourselves, you inspire us, and I think Chelsea and I, maybe our best work is together, and I think we wanted to just it's loosely a spiritual podcast. I must admit, it's loosely. So if you're looking for deep spiritual truths, I don't know if that's us, but In Good Faith is a front porch experience. If going to church is deep in the living room or the kitchen somewhere, we're out in the front porch just kind of shooting the breeze and having deep, meaningful conversations, hopefully with some friends, new friends, old friends. And then a lot of the podcasts are just Chelsea and I deliberating over codependency and compassion. And I think we're thinking about doing one on, what's our next one we might do on?
Oh, you never, imposter syndrome.
On imposter syndrome. Just like that.
So good.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys feel this way too, that you get people at church on Sunday morning and it's amazing. And then getting individuals in that discipleship process to walk out their faith on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, and then everyday life decisions is sometimes there can be a gap. And I know we all, as preachers and communicators, try really hard to make application for biblical principle to real life. But then also Sundays are proclaiming the gospel and the good news of Jesus. And so for us, really trying to use a podcast space to just talk about everyday life where we can apply scripture, theology, but also wisdom, and wisdom from life learned, from experiences, from people who are experts in things. I'm sure it's why you guys are doing a podcast too. It's just, I think about what our kids learn in our family dinners and in our meals and conversations that can be really missing in so much of the world that we live today. And I think that's why people love to listen to podcasts and conversational and not just preaching. And it's just that, that application of, this is how you do compassion. This is imposter syndrome. This is what I feel. So we're
Thank you for asking, but we're trying.
We're trying.
No, it's awesome.
I love the imagery of the different parts of a house, though, because you do life in different parts of the house, and you don't always have conversations that you would have in a bedroom on the front porch, but that's
here they
life.
Are in the bedroom.
Here you are
doing
in the
it right now. We're not on the porch, baby. We've come right to the den of iniquity. Is that what you guys call your bedroom, the den of iniquity?
Wow.
No.
The safe haven.
Yeah.
The inner sanctum, Batman's lair.
That is undefiled.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry for calling your marriage bed a den of iniquity.
Oh, God.
We tried to defile it,
Stop. Yeah. We tried to defile it. Like, what does that even mean?
We do our best. We had a trapeze installed, is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, man.
Oh my gosh. You guys are so life-giving and so fun and that comes through. I listened to your first episode driving through the desert of Utah, as one does. And it made me laugh multiple times out loud. And you guys, it's just being around you is such a treat. You guys have that magnetic personality. Both of you truly are two of the great communicators. I mean, I've long said Judah is one of the best storytellers I've ever heard. You've I don't know if you would describe yourself, and I actually hate when people take one thing that maybe God's maybe good at and like refer to it as the thing. I do.
Oh, I'm honored.
No, but I hate it when if I use props and it goes, oh, your props are so great. I'm like, all right, next 2 years I'm not touching a prop, or whatever it is. Like,
so rebellious.
You're gonna tell some funny story from history. All right, well, I'm sick of history now. But I don't like. No one likes being pigeonholed, and people always refer to you as a 1-point sermon preacher, and I've heard a lot of people say that about you, and you do tend to, as opposed to having 4 points, have 1 point. So I am curious about the arc of your storytelling, the arc of communication, maybe what at this moment is something you're thinking about consciously trying to do or not do. But first I was trying to say, being with you in person, that comes through on the podcast. So to the listeners out there, check out In Good Faith. I imagine it's on YouTube and podcasting platforms and all the places and spaces.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because that does come across. The experience of being with you in person or laughing in a condo in Montana, Judah, that comes across in a live that live feeling in the podcast. So do check it out. But just back to the question about communication.
We've made some good memories together, Levi, you and I, by the way.
It did hit the ceiling, is what I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
I know. I feel like Jennie and I were taking care of kids when you guys were making those great memories, and I feel like it's time for she and I to go make some great memories.
Do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
That's very, very fair and accurate assessment. We've had some great memories. I love being with you guys. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I think the compliments and things mean so much. I think sometimes if I get in my head a little bit, I'm like, okay, oh shoot, my next sermon, I better be really good, I guess. Nothing worse than being at some speaking engagement and they're like, and he is one of the best communicators we've ever heard. Come to stage and you're like, I don't think tonight's going to be a good night. This is going to be crazy.
No, the bigger the introduction, the worse the message. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right? Because you're just like, now I'm thinking about myself. But I think there's a lot going on right now in terms of culture and it's so funny because I think communicators think that culture has very little to do with what they're doing, but I think actually it has everything to do with what you're doing. Culture is a lot like the plate, right, that you serve the meal on. And so you've got to assess the state of the plate and what kind of plate it's being served on and then what the culture is really hearing, listening to, seeing, feeling, experiencing. For instance, right now, you'd be wise to be careful how you just walk up to some speaking engagement and just tell everyone that life is perfect and good and easy. And that's God's plan. And then everyone's like, where have you lived the last 2 years of the world, the 3 years of the world? So you always got to take consideration of context. I do think there's a change happening. There's a lot of trends that I am excited about, a lot of things I think that's happening to preaching. I think one of my favorite trends right now, which probably was not at all the question, but is really because of where culture has gone, I think it's going to allow preachers and communicators like us to be more candid, more seemingly unprepared, but prepared to be unprepared, prepared to speak from the heart at times, prepared to share not what we just read to regurgitate, but what we know and have lived and have cried over. And I think there's also a simplicity that I think is happening, which I'm really, really excited about. I think the big reveal of the big mystery truth that we've discovered in the Bible, I think right now is not where the world's at. I think people want to know that they're loved and whether or not that's true. So yeah, I have strong feelings sometimes about approaches and communication and styles and things, because I think sometimes they're a barrier to entry, and then sometimes they're a wonderful onboarder. And I think take an assessment of that. So right now, for what it's worth, I don't bring a Bible on stage. I don't bring a pulpit on stage. I bring a handheld mic and a stand. And I don't.
And a pretty, pretty wicked double-breasted suit lately, it seems.
Oh, I'll rock that double-breasted suit though, with all of my heart. Like, I will suit it up. But just certain things that are happening in culture, I think, is very, very exciting for preachers.
Have you ever worn a Fitbit or a wearable fitness tracker on the platform? Because I will say, when you're in Kirkland, you come off that stage about every 3 minutes, and I saw, I think there's laps happening. So I'm just curious how the step counter. It would tag it as probably you playing lacrosse or something to where.
I'm an absolute. I am Nightmare on Elm Street. That's my middle name, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm preaching I just did my first speaking engagement in 125 years in Phoenix, Arizona, and that had 35 minutes. And I'm so reckless now. And my dad is in heaven going, son, have some dignity and honor. And I look down and I go, I got 17 minutes left. How can I possibly do this? So they jumped it back. I go, we just gained time. We just made more time.
The time stood still.
Went 15 minutes over, Levi. I still went 15 minutes over.
That is one interesting thing. People's attention span these days is either 7 seconds or an hour and a half, right?
Hey, this is what I came on this podcast to ask you. Explain to me this morning. I looked on our app and our service was 85 minutes yesterday on our app. And I almost text our team like, guys, you got to cut my sermons up. And then I went to Furtick, right? Just to see how Stevens would always check up on his latest title and talk. He's an old friend. And
there's no one better than him. Yeah.
I saw 1 hour and 2 minutes and I was like, oh, we're good.
My archive was 1 hour this week. It's funny. But then again, either it's a TikTok video or it's a Joe Rogan podcast.
For 3 hours.
For 3 hours. And there's nothing in between in our culture at the moment.
Got it.
Why do you think that is?
Yes, why?
I don't know.
But are the same people who are watching the 7 seconds also watching 3 hours?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the question.
For sure.
They are?
I think so.
That's amazing.
Like, I haven't seen the new James Bond movie because I'm like 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Seriously.
That long.
What is gone is the polished, manicured 27 minutes and a poem. I think that's the thing, because you can be, short and sweet and get it to the, and be shocking, but then you can be long and really nuanced and get into it unless there's no makeup on, and I think I think there's a lot to be learned from that.
Whoa! So are you saying it's the same impetus, meaning authenticity? Yeah. It's like, give me 7 seconds that's just from your heart, or give me 3 hours that's from your heart. Is that what you're saying?
But nothing in between.
Nothing.
I think so. And I think that's why
I say that. I'm learning. This is real time, ladies and gentlemen. This is no joke. I have no idea what's going on right now with this. I'm just like, what's going on right now? And thank you, Luskos, for helping us.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I did want to ask you over here. I always love talking about, just ritual. I've given a lot. I'm on a journey right now coming off melatonin. I've been addicted to melatonin for like 10 years, and I've made a decision a while back.
The non-addicting.
It's a non-habit forming habit that I took.
The melatonin.
Do you guys take melatonin?
I just started the little Ollie gummies. Have you tried those? They have like elderberry and melatonin, and they really do help me sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Are these addictive? But I've never heard about it.
Every bottle of melatonin says non-habit forming, not non-habit forming. But then I took it for 10 years and found out you can make a habit out of melatonin. I saw this podcast, and it was talking on Tim Ferriss's show about how your body will eventually stop producing melatonin. They've actually found melatonin can block kids from going into puberty. There's some things it does to you. Most people take like 10,000 times more melatonin than your body would naturally secrete. And then eventually your body gets the memo and stops doing it on your own. So I'm just trying as a personal experiment to come off a melatonin addiction. So seeing your bed makes me think about sleep. And I'm just curious, do either of you have a hard time sleeping? Are you guys both pretty good at it?
I need a lot of sleep. I have some thyroid issues and autoimmune things from some things I went through. So I need a solid 9 hours of sleep,
that sounds
think is great.
wonderful.
But I get frustrated when people say, well, we all have 24 hours in a day. God's given us all the same amount of time. And I just want to answer back, no, he hasn't, because I need 9 hours of sleep and Judah needs 6. So he gets 3 extra hours a day. It's not fair. That's the talk I want to have with God.
So 6 is a good slice of sleep for you, Judah?
6 to 8, I think. Yeah, like a 6 to 8, don't you think? Or no?
Yeah, 6 to 7.
No.
I also can't sleep binge. If Judah goes hard for 3 days in a row, he can just come crash the next day and sleep in and catch up.
Yeah, I slept till, was it 9 today?
Yeah.
That is sleeping in.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys have really good shades? How do you keep it so dark enough to have that happen?
No, it's like the worst. I was just thinking, this is like you obviously people on the podcast can't see it. You can see how bright it is in our room.
Yeah.
I think most people listen to our podcast and then halfway through switch to YouTube once something is referenced that needs to be seen. I get that comment a lot. Like, I was listening and I had to go to the video because I was so curious as to what happened,
Thank you for saying that. I had no idea this was videoed. I'm really glad we made our bed today.
Yeah, that's so true. I had no idea this was going to be a video. I thought this was just together.
Oh, man.
So do you guys wear sleep masks then?
No, that would scare me.
Oh.
But your middle name's Nightmare on Elm Street, so you should be fine.
I can't be wearing a mask. I just don't think I could get it off fast enough.
No, the problem isn't ever getting it off. The problem is you wake up and it's always on the top of your head.
But it just goes over your eyes.
We both sleep in sleepy masks.
Really?
Every night.
Although we don't need to.
Do you keep them on your forehead and then kiss goodnight and then pull them down, roll over?
Depends. Do it different way every night.
Wait, why do you use masks?
Because
okay, well, here's the thing. we actually don't need them now because right now the mornings are
There's
dark.
no sun in
and then
Montana
it
right
gets
now. The
dark
sun
at
is gone
5.
until spring.
But the times we do need it, it just has become a habit.
And hotels, there's always so much
true.
inappropriate light in hotels. And there's every device in your life puts off some sort of light. I just sleep better without light on. And so we just both got into masks.
But in the summertime, it gets really bright early and then stays bright till like midnight. So that's when I usually am really good about using it. But
yeah,
That makes sense.
anyways.
So do you guys have any sleep aids or sleep hacks or sleep tips?
No, I don't think so. I'm usually, I get pretty, last night I watched Dune. I've got like 10 minutes left. I watched Dune till like 2 a.m., but I slept till 9, so I feel.
And you chose to end with 10 minutes left and just leave that hanging just as a morsel for the morning?
I just couldn't do it. I got 10 minutes left to do it. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I may never watch the last 10 minutes. It doesn't bother me at all.
To the grave.
Wow.
My friend Bubba Watson just wrote a book, and he's like, how far are you? I was like, I've read a little bit of every chapter. It's awesome. I love the book. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, a lot of things, bro. A lot of things.
So do you read mostly, like regularly outside of Bubba's book? Or are you?
No, I don't read ever. No. Why read when you could watch SportsCenter? I don't read. No.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I don't like to read at all, to be honest. I just read Greenlight though by Matthew McConaughey, cover to cover in one day, and every opportunity I've told everyone because I'm so proud of myself.
That is
that's
really
good.
amazing.
Have you listened to the audiobook at all?
Okay, everyone tells me that, but Levi, you have to understand. For me to read a book like
You're like, I read a book.
They're moving on to the next thing, and you're like, no. We're stopping at I read the book.
I read, like everyone's like audiobook. I'm like, dude, I do audiobooks. That's easy. I'm talking about reading, man. This was an accomplishment.
It's a beautiful book. I had to do both. I got the book because it's a
I'll do
masterpiece and how it's put together, but we went through it together on a road trip and listened to it. And man, that guy, I feel like he opened up a whole new category of audiobooks.
Let's go. I've heard the same thing, and I just.
What was your favorite? Well, the way he says green light every time, it's presented in the book as visually, but the way he says it is so lovely and
Say it like
delightful.
he says it for me right now.
Green light.
Green light.
But he says it different.
He says it different when it's needed in different ways.
Green light. All right. Green light.
Well, what was your favorite thing? What was your favorite quirky thing about McConaughey you learned while reading that book?
I was just mesmerized, and then like his honesty with his averageness, his humanness. Again, I just think there's a reason the book resonates. It just speaks to me on a really deep level as a human being. I just want to be more who I am. Does that make sense?
1,000%.
Yes,
I think the
yes.
two things I liked the most was that he could pee while driving his van. That's why didn't I think of that? Why isn't that something you can buy? And then secondly, the conversation about when he first made it and his jeans were being ironed, and his girlfriend goes, yeah, but do you like your jeans ironed? And he's like, just because you can afford to have your jeans ironed doesn't mean you should. Like, it was just, those were beautiful moments.
Those were beautiful moments. And of course, we're working on getting an Airstream immediately. So.
Immediately. And then bring it to Montana. And
Yes.
That's actually a great point. We should do
Our
that.
son was just saying we need to do a family trip of national parks and do Yellowstone and then Mount Rushmore and then, our 17-year-old son
Absolutely
asked for that. I'm like,
Glacier National Park
yeah,
is right near us.
You definitely should. That's the thing you should do. What do you guys like to do for family vacations? You guys have a thing you love?
I love any place with a pool and sunshine and I can sit and read a book and have great meals. I'm pretty simple
That's
when it
amazing.
comes to
How about any Chelsea Smith book recommendations?
Oh
gosh, I'm in school right now, so I'm not
Cool.
reading.
We're not going to count those. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, but
yeah.
she hasn't been reading
Like
because he's in school.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but then I read tons of fiction books, but they're too inappropriate to mention on Hey, it's the Luskos, so I can't quote those. Like,
I'll give you guys a couple of recommendations. Up and Down by Bubba Watson, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and Will by Will Smith, which is my next book.
Have you read it yet? I've been hearing everyone post about it. I've been seeing everyone post about
I'm
it.
2 pages in.
Hey, good job. Keep
I feel
going.
like he
Keep
came a
going.
long time at the perfect moment to become like the grandparent of the internet. Like, I feel like everyone has embraced Joe Rogan as their father, but I feel like Will Smith has come along as this loving grandfather, even though he's old enough to be some people's father. Like, he's like his persona online is like the grandpa.
Yeah, it's very amazing, like how Will is and who he's become. He's one of my favorite people, and I love his son Jaden very, very much. And I am just yeah. Once again, I'm just grateful for all kinds of public figures right now who are willing to go, all right, man, like here's who I really am, and here's what's really going on in my heart and life. And I was just taken aback even by Matthew's candor. And I mean, we all don't tell everybody everything, but man, I just hope preachers get the memo, and I hope they get it real soon.
Oh, that's really
so
good
good.
stuff. You guys, you've been generous with your time.
Yes.
And we love you. This has been
love
wonderful
you.
and grateful for you. Want everyone to check out In Good Faith. Obviously, you can find their books. I mean, Judah, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books out there. I'm sure Chelsea is coming. So
But I also want to say that I don't know if the Faithful app is still a thing. Is that still a thing?
it's still a thing.
It is, yeah.
Well,
We're doing a new iteration, which
It's
we're really
evolving,
excited to watch it
yes.
soon.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so I think, Chelsea, you're one of my favorite people to watch on the Faithful app because you have like different categories of things that you talk about, and the way you do it is just so like engaging, and your topics are so helpful. And so I also want to tell everyone to watch Chelsea. And Judah, you are also on there.
Wow, he's an asterisk. Jennie, jeez.
I have a Lusko complaint to make while we are wrapping up.
Oh.
And that is that my whole life I've not liked pineapple. I've never felt bad leaving, you get a bowl of mixed fruit and I just leave the pineapple behind. I don't like the taste it leaves
It's
in your
acidic,
mouth.
too acidic.
But ever since I read Swipe Right and heard about how expensive pineapple used to be, I just feel guilty leaving it in my
Oh, yeah,
bowl.
that's the pineapple there.
That is so funny.
You ruined me.
I'm
Now
not
I-
going good at the camera, but there's a
It's
pineapple there.
upside down.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
are you showing your knee tattoo?
Yeah, well, it's my only tat. So when I'm with the Luskos, I want to show my tat off.
I love it. That's a better at 70. That's the better at 70, right?
Yeah, it's better at 70, Levi. I don't want to get into it, man.
I like it. I like it. I like that. There's been a lot of thigh. From this
lot
angle,
of
it looks like
thigh.
you're not wearing any pants at all.
And I think you're just short shorts. Levi, the question that everyone wants to know is, are you willing, if we do another episode, which you're not forced to have us on, but if we do another episode, would you be willing to get the leg tattoo of Better at 70 live on the episode?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, you would.
Yes! This has been a fantastic, this is awesome.
Only if it's in your handwriting, though. I'm going to get it in your handwriting.
All right, we'll do it. This is JB's handwriting, but if you want my handwriting, that's what we'll do.
Absolutely.
Done.
Yes. Chelsea, thank you. That was a Mental Floss article I came across forever ago about the pineapple. It's incredible.
But
How
now
things
you feel,
end up being
but now
the way
she
they
feels
are.
bad not eating it.
Oh, you don't have to feel bad. There's no shame. The Holy Spirit never speaks in shame. It's not a language he's fluent in.
Thanks,
What
Pastor.
I love about Levi Lusko, I must say. By the way, is it Lusko or Lesko?
Lusko.
Neither.
Lusko. But I answer to either because nobody says it properly.
Wait, Jennie just said neither.
Oh, did you say Lusko or Lesko? You said Lusko
and
Lesko.
Lusko.
Oh, Lusko.
Lusko.
Yeah.
Like lust.
Like lust.
Lusko.
Luskos. Wow.
Must go.
Okay, I'll never forget that. Lust and Luskos. That's my point, though.
When you see me, I want you to think about lust.
Lust.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Thank you for
sorry.
being honest.
What were you saying?
Thanks for being honest about your struggles. It means a lot.
Honestly, it is what it is.
One of the things I admire about you the most, besides just the people that you are, okay, so let's put that aside because that is primary and it's incredible. But I will say, to the pineapple point, I think, Levi, you are so talented in imagery and so talented in giving a story in nature or science, or it's like you just said 2 lungs. Ambidextrous, 2 hands, like your ability to be like, it's like the pineapple, it's like the squirrel, it's like the redwood, it's like the 4-leaf clover, and immediately you give a perfect parallel to a spiritual dynamo in people's lives that I absolutely love. And as far as this family is concerned, we shall never approach pineapples the same again.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
That's amazing.
you're fabulous people.
So kind.
Have the best day. Love you. Thanks for coming
Love
on.
you guys
and
so
everyone
much.
listen to Judah and Chelsea. They preach every week at Church Home. And until next time, you guys.
Thanks, Lusko.
Thank you so much for listening. And be sure to swing by levilusko.com to see what's going on in our world, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. Jennie and Levi Lusko, out.